Able to be here tonight. And then we'll see if I can get this thing going. So, again, just many thanks for your support. We could not do these trips. Absolutely, truly could not do them without you. We appreciate you giving your time and support to these activities. Um, our priority is always safety. And so making sure our chaperones and volunteers know what the expectations are and have a good sense of what the program's going to look like. So that's why we like to do these calls ahead of time. Really want to give a shout out to our State Department of Education. Our fourth grade Camp Casey program, as well as many of our outdoor learning programs that you hear about or have participated in, are funded through what's called our OSPI. It's our State Department of Education. It's called the Outdoor Learning Grant. This is the third year we've had this grant, and while we still have to charge a small amount to families, it's nothing compared to what it would be without this grant funding. When your students are in fifth grade, hopefully they'll be able to participate in another grant-funded program called Outdoor Schools that funds overnight camp for all fifth and sixth graders in the state. Our fingers are crossed that funding will remain in place next year. So big thanks for those funding supports. So a little overview, of course, screening and volunteer background checks. You can go and find that paperwork if you haven't completed yours yet on the district website. Just volunteering at South Woodbury School District, it tells you what you need. You can also of course, call Deanne at our front office. You have to have identification, and then we run that check to make sure that you're current with that. If you've had a background check, but you're not sure how long it's been, just give Deanne a call and she can let you know. Anybody who's moved recently, and I don't think we have folks in this particular instance, do have to go through fingerprinting. If you've recently moved to Washington and you don't have your permanent license yet. Camp Kirby, as an example, every chaperone has to be fingerprinted because we have adults staying alone with students in cabins. We don't have to go through fingerprinting at Camp Casey because we have multiple adults staying in those dorms, in those barracks with students. But please make sure if you don't know about your background check yet and your volunteer paperwork to get that completed. We will never have adults alone with students, and again, that's when fingerprinting is required. We have to go through this just talking about what our expectations are, of course, for chaperones, same kind of thing as if we were on campus, any district-sponsored event. So all things that I'm not worried about, but again, that we do have to talk about. The one thing that is really important for everyone to understand is that no medication of any kind, over the counter. We had a parent a few years ago and she came at it from the best spirit of things, gave a melatonin gummy to a student to help her sleep. We absolutely cannot do that sort of thing. Nothing. So if you have any questions or you feel like a student needs to be looked at or no matter what time of the night it is, if you're an overnight, just wake up one of the staff members. So be at least one staff member on each floor of the barracks. So there's 2 barracks, boys in one on 2 floors and girls in the other barracks on 2 floors. Again, our school nurse works with families whose children do take prescribed medication. One of the teachers is trained on that, and they are the ones that will make sure students get any needed medication. This is a chaperone guideline form, this link. You can either stop by and pick one up at our main office, or you can print it at home. And we just like to have one of these on file for all chaperones, just showing that you were made aware of what those guidelines are. So I said 7 learning groups, but it may be 6 learning groups. I need to confirm that with Terry. But the way the program works is students are divided into these learning groups, and then we have either 6 or 7 learning rotations that they move through together. So every learning group will get to hit all of those learning rotations over the course of the day and a half that we'll be there. The chaperones, you who are working with our learning groups, will stay and you'll rotate with your student group throughout the experience. Teachers will be there, but they're going to be floating, kind of being where they're needed at any given time, as will I and Melissa and Terry Welsh, who's one of our coordinators of the program. And you will have, all volunteers will have a packet with, your schedule and all the places you need to be with your students at what time. And you'll also have a list of the phone numbers of all the staff members so you can reach them whenever needed. Depending on, we've got a mixed schedule. Melissa is the most organized person in the world, and she has a whole system down of knowing exactly, when chaperones have indicated they could be there. Some folks are there all day and in the evening. Some folks are coming just for the evening. So you and your schedule will be advised of whether you're going to be a learning rotation or just an overnight person. And we'll have an area where when you arrive, you have the option of riding on the bus, but you're also welcome to just drive. There's more than enough parking up there. And just as an aside, real quick, I'll tell you, if you've driven in before, you kind of come in and there's typically a couple barriers there, and then to the left of that entry road before the barracks, you can go up the hill to Camp Fort Casey. Instead, you're going to go along the small road that is in front of the barracks and next to the big field. And that winds around, and then all the parking is in the back. And you'll see us out there, and there'll be signs. So either way, you're fine to drive or take the bus up. We just need you to really, it's being there and being fully present in the experience with students. And so, we know people have emergencies and things, but staying off your cell phone, just really being there in the spirit of the thing with the students. You'll have a list of your groups and just, consistently checking in, making sure you've got everybody as you rotate between those learning rotations, consistently doing check-ins to make sure you've got everybody. Students have to have, especially at this age, 100% supervision. So we really talk about the buddy system, which means it's really 3 because it's as an example, if a student in your learning group needs to go to the restroom, one adult would take 2 students to the restroom while the other adult stays with the group. So again, never having adults be alone with students. We always use the buddy system and then the adult with the 2 students. Yeah, just always being there and being present and ready to work with the students.
Susie, we have a question.
Yes.
Regarding if students are able to come with their parents and how attendance would work. I think in the past we've asked that all students ride the bus up on the first day.
It does make it a lot easier if a student can. Yeah, if students ride the bus up. If you have an extenuating circumstance, just give your teacher or me a call and we can talk about it. But typically it makes it much easier because we kind of put the students in their learning groups and we make sure they're on the same bus together with their chaperones who are riding the bus. But again, we know things come up, so just let us know. So student behavior is the responsibility of the staff, but support from our chaperones. We're going over already expectations. Students have met with Terry Welsh and their teachers have been talking about it, about what those behavioral expectations are, and any site-specific rules. We really focus on that safety piece. There's a lot of ground up there. There's a lot of area, and so keeping close eyes is very, very important. If a student, after a warning from a chaperone or from the learning rotation leader, if a student is still not regulating or giving you the behavior you've asked for, then please just immediately notify the teacher, and that teacher or me or somebody will come and work with that student so you can carry on with your group. again, you'll have those cell phone numbers if needed. If there's a medical emergency, your first call, of course, would be to 911, and then you'd immediately call the teacher or me or both. Teachers will be holding all the medical release forms for their class, and we'll take on that next emergency support step while the chaperones remain with the rest of the students in the group. For other non-emergency issues, if you can't find a student for a minute, a serious breach of rules, etc., again, you're going to call that student's teacher. That's why we always have two adults. So if one adult needs to deal with that situation, the other adult can keep moving on with the group and the learning rotations. We will have first aid kits, of course, and the teachers will carry those in addition to the medical release forms. Why did it decide it doesn't want to move? There it goes. Uh-oh. So again, still talking a little bit about behavior. Again, make that call to the teacher. And in the evening, again, there'll be adult staff members in those barracks. Talk to that staff member immediately. And then if we have a student who continues to be non-compliant after directions from the chaperone or the teacher or the learning rotation leaders, the teacher will and I will meet and discuss, and we, in some instances, will call a parent to come pick up a student if we just can't, if they're just not willing to do what needs to be done. Haven't had to do that yet, thankfully. I did back in the day in middle school, Adventure Ed, if there's any parents out here that heard of Adventure Ed back in the 90s. Those were fun trips. Again, this is the form for you, another form for you to fill out. Is this a separate form, Melissa? This is the emergency contact for chaperones, right?
This is the same form. The front side has the information we're going over now, and then the back side has an emergency contact for the chaperone in case we were to need to contact someone on their behalf.
Okay, very good. Again, talking a little bit about nighttime. I've got a typo there, a minimum of 2 staff members and 3 to 4 same-sex adults on each floor. We have lights out at between 9 and 9:30. We'll do a bed check at lights out time, making sure that everybody's accounted for. And teachers will again be talking with students. They're so tired by the end of the day that they're usually more than ready to go to sleep. Again, just making sure you're not alone with the student. There's bathrooms on each floor of the barracks, so students don't need to go, outside any doors to use the restroom. Here's the staff that will be on site. Mr. Lavasser and Ms. Zimmerman will be doing art and then team building rotations, so they'll be there on site. Terry Welsh, Melissa will be there during the day. And then we'll be asking you for cell phone numbers as well, so we can engage in that coordination. Here's our schedule for day 1. We're going to talk a little bit about the food situation, but on another slide, but basically it's breakfast at home or school, and then a packed lunch either from the cafeteria or from home. And teachers will be talking to you about which one your child will be doing. Then we arrive at Camp Casey, we have our lunch, we unpack, and we get right into those learning rotations that run from 11:30 to 5:45. It's a long day, but it's wonderful. They're busy and they're engaged. We have a lunch break in the middle of that. We have snack breaks. Wonderful Whidbey Island Nourishes provides those snacks for us. We have a little break. We have dinner. First night will be dinner of pizza in the mess hall that we're providing. Then we do a campfire from 7 to 8:30. One group's doing campfire and one group's in the auditorium doing different games with supervision. And then again, that's kind of our evening schedule. And this is a breakdown of our volunteer needs, and Melissa will be assigning people their roles depending on the time that you indicate that you're able to be at the program. Day two, we continue to have learning rotations from 8:30 to noon. We pack up in the morning first thing. We have to get out of those dorms. We then have breakfast. The breakfast that morning is provided by Camp Casey. It's really fun. It's a big breakfast in the mess hall, and it's neat camp experience for the kids. They really love it. And we have lunch, and then we load the buses, and we get back to school in time for students to take regular transportation home, or you're, of course, welcome to pick up your kiddos early if you'd like to.
Which on the slide I see says 3:30, but we will be back in time for 3 o'clock for the buses.
Thank you for catching that. We didn't update that since our schedule changed. Again, I just talked about that, but this is a little overview. Please don't send snacks. It just complicates things, and I promise they'll have plenty of food. One really important piece is water bottles. Just making sure we'll have big jugs of water at various learning rotations, and asking chaperones to just kind of keep checking in with kiddos when they're this active during the day. Making sure they have plenty of water is really, really important. So that's what we'll have there and available for students. And that's all the information I have. Heather, Melissa, Susan. This is Susan and Melissa's first Camp Casey experience. They've both done lots of outdoor learning. But Heather went to Camp Kirby last year as a fifth grade teacher. But anything either of you would like to add?
I just want to say I'm excited. Camp Kirby was amazing. The kids loved it. And so I think that they're really going to love this camp this year.
Yep, absolutely. Any questions that anybody has?
We have a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay.
One being, do all the students get the chance to participate in the campfire?
Yes. Yes, there'll be a rotation. Like 35 minutes at the campfire, and 35 in the games, and then they switch. Yeah, and the fire pits are beautiful. They're right on the beach there off the big field, and they love that. Hoping the weather is good, of course, but we'll be fine either way.
And then another question we had was how many students per group? And right now we anticipate that number is between 12 and 14 students per group.
With two adults.
With two adults.
Yeah.
So the question will be, learning groups, will they be kids from other classes, or will they be all in the same class?
I'm trying to remember. I don't.
In the past, we have done some mixing of classes in some of the groups, and then some of them will be class specific. So we've done a variety, depending on how many groups we have.
Yeah. And then at night in the barracks, they get to sleep, not choose which floor they're going to be on, but they get to choose where they want their bed, which bunk they want. So they get a little choice, but it's also good for them to, connect with new people. That's really good as well. Other questions? All right. Well, I thank you all so very much. And we're really excited to be able to offer this opportunity. I got to go to Camp Casey when I was in sixth grade, which is a very, very long time ago. So it's been wonderful to bring this back to our school and our students. All right, everybody.
And I did too, Susie. I always have to say that I got to go when I was in sixth grade as well. So it was really, so it's very exciting. I think the kids are going to, like I said, are going to love it. It's just a fun experience.
It really is. And if you haven't heard, YMCA bought Camp Casey, and they're already putting in, like, there's going to be a climbing wall, they're going to have an archery course. There's just all kinds of wonderful things they're going to be happening up there. So yeah, it's a great thing. All right, everybody, have a great night. Don't hesitate to call us if you have other questions. Bye.